Bama opened as like a 3-point underdog against Georgia. SEC championship game got up to 6. It is now back down. So people are jumping on that Bama plus 6. Don't blame them. I think we have a chance to have one of those epic Bama-Georgia games that we have seen. 2012 was an epic Bama-Georgia game where they were probably the two best teams in all of college football. That was the Aaron Murray pass that fell short, just on the goal line there. Not to PTSD Georgia fans too much. They played in 2018. Alabama won relatively easily. Bama, then Bryce Young upsets Georgia a couple of years ago in 21. But all these times it felt like we maybe were looking at the best two teams. They, of course, played in the national championship game in 2017, historic Tua Tagovailoa decision by Nick Saban. I do think Nick Saban's going to have to do something special at halftime. They have been an extraordinarily good second half football team this season, Alabama, but it's about weakness versus weakness, and I don't know where the matchups are. So that's my overarching thought, is that we could be looking at a spectacular football game between two of the best teams in the country, and my hope is we get something close to that at the end of the game.
I think we will. I think this is a pretty fascinating matchup. I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but I think Alabama might be the one team that has a chance to derail Georgia's season. I think if we get into the potential matchups down the road, who matches up better against Georgia? Is it Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon? I think it's probably Alabama. So
they're the second best team in America, is what you're saying.
This is matchup based. Let's see what happens on Saturday. I think if you wanted to make a scenario where Alabama pulls off the upset, keeps it closer than the spread, whatever it is, it starts with the run game. I mean, Georgia has struggled a little bit more against the run this year, especially teams are having success kind of attacking the perimeter, the edge. Jace McClellan's banged up for Alabama. Jalen Milroe is going to have to probably use his legs a lot. That's where it would start if I was Alabama. It would be getting your ground game going, and then you need to pressure Carson Beck with those edge rushers, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, getting those guys on track to
hold off on the defensive. I want to stay on how to approach Georgia's defense for Alabama's offense. Peyton Thorne, 12 carries, 92 yards for Auburn against Georgia. Brady Cook, 7 carries, 57 yards rushing for Missouri. Haynes King last week had 8 carries for 42 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. I'm not counting sacks. I'm removing, if you remove all the sacks. Jackson Dart had 6 carries for 37 yards rushing. Obviously, the Ole Miss game was a blowout. What position do all those guys play?
Quarterback.
That's right. Jalen Milroe is going to have to be the Milroe he was against LSU, where Tommy Rees saved up a lot of stuff and designed a bunch of plays for him to explode on the ground. That is going to have to be a part of their game plan. I don't think that they are talented enough along the offensive line and in the running back group, which I can't believe is a sentence about Alabama that anyone says, to take advantage of the things you're talking about. Like Cody Schrader from Missouri did that, and I think that was because he's that good. It's going to be all about Milroe. I do think that the receiving core for Alabama is underrated. I think that they consistently have made big play after big play after big play. You had the big play against Auburn, the big plays against Tennessee, they consistent. A&M, they made huge plays in the second half. I don't know what the adjustment is, but this is about Saban and Rees and Milroe and the big plays on offense and making adjustments in the second half, and about quarterback run. That's my approach on that side of the ball. Do you want to get to the other side of the ball?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, first of all, I would agree with you. George has only given up 3 passing plays of 40+ yards this year. So that is like, if I'm Georgia, I'll live with Jalen Milroe taking all the short stuff and just don't give up the big play. But yeah, I mean, if Alabama wins this game, to me, it's on Jalen Milroe's shoulders.
Yep.
I think.
On the other side, what is the weakness that you can attack if you are Alabama? Or better yet, I should say that the other way. If you're Georgia, what's the weakness you can attack of Alabama? And it is the secondary. And it is if Carson Beck can stand in the pocket and has time to throw, what makes Georgia the number 1 team, and I've tried to figure this out because I've had a lot of debates about this. If they lose, do they belong in? What's their resume? All that stuff. This is the most NFL football team in college football. They run an NFL offense with an NFL quarterback, with NFL tight end, NFL weapons, NFL system. They're balanced. They motion, they do everything. And if Carson Beck has time to throw the football, you will not stop their offense. Plain and simple.
I think that's why Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, the other edge rushers for Alabama or defensive linemen. They've got to create havoc from the snap. If Carson Beck is standing back there, not under pressure, Brock Bowers is going to have a big day. Ladd McConkey and Ra Thomas have been banged up. You know, if those guys come back, even if they don't, Georgia still has plenty of weapons at receiver. Also, it's been tough to run against Alabama, but Kendall Milton and Edwards have both been coming on as the year progresses. And I think Georgia's offensive line has gotten healthier and it's gotten better too. So to me, this is Alabama. Like you said, they've got to win on passing downs, creating havoc. And then in turn with that, maybe you can force a turnover too and give yourself a short field. I think Alabama could win a shootout, but I think a higher scoring game probably benefits Georgia. I think maybe a little bit of lower scoring game would be beneficial to Alabama.
I actually think both teams can win either way.
That's fair.
I think if it's 2017, both teams could win. If it's 38-34, both teams can win. I do think Bama is motivated, though. Bama has the motivational chip here. The Georgia Bulldogs are the hunted. Despite whatever Kirby wants to say, Alabama is now on the other side with the pitchforks and the torches, and they're running through the forest trying to track down that game. Alabama is coming after you, and I think Alabama is going to play extremely well. I think the talent disparity is not nearly as great as everybody realizes it is. I do think Alabama top 10 in the nation at creating pressure, over 3 sacks a game. I think they're going to get after Carson Beck and force him off his spot. I do think that Carson Beck is more athletic than people think, and I think that could be a factor here. But Georgia's not exactly pressuring the quarterback, 67th in the country at quarterback sacks. I mean, they can get after you a little bit more and rush you, but Milroe has the answer for that. Also, that Bama secondary, which might be the weakness that Carson Beck can exploit, also very opportunistic. Also makes some big plays when they needed to against A&M, against Tennessee, against LSU. I have Bama plus the 6. I told you a couple weeks ago I had Bama plus the 4. I've definitely got them plus the 6. I think Alabama plays a really good football game. I think they might win outright. I'm not sure yet. I might wait till after you pick before I pick officially, but I am absolutely taking Bama in the points.
Yeah. This has kind of similar vibes to, what was it, 2021, when Bryce Young just had the superstar game in Atlanta and Alabama was backs against the wall and needed to win to get in. It has some vibes to that. Alabama's also pretty motivated. And like you said, they're the hunter this time. That being said, Georgia meets the moment every time. I'm not going to read too much into last week's kind of iffy performance against Georgia Tech. I think Georgia meets the moment. I think it's close, but I think the Bulldogs win.
I'll take Bama outright. Bama outright to win, and total freaking chaos on Sunday for the committee. Complete and utter chaos.